Welcome back. My guest today is Alana Sokic, Senior Consultant at Global Public Affairs. Welcome, Alana.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So good to have you on the show. I know you have many clients of yours who have been on the show. Can you start by telling us a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Sure. So Global Public Affairs is the largest privately held government relations and strategic communications firm in Canada. We have a dedicated cannabis practice of which I am a part of. And a lot of folks, when they hear government relations, it mystifies them a little bit. It sounds very broad. And so what we do specifically is we work at the intersection of business and industry. So we help business relay their objectives to government, often in a way that is palatable, and relaying the goals that are shared by both government and industry that hopefully results in a policy that's palatable for all.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what would you say you love most about the work that you're doing?
What I love most about the work I'm doing is that from a policy perspective, it has so many different interplays. So cannabis, as you would think, involves both justice and health, as well as law enforcement. So when I say I work in the cannabis sector, it's really not just with those who touch the plant. It's the community associations of which a retailer or a community association of which a retailer is setting up shop in. It's the police associations who are using drug testing devices for the first time. So the variety and the dynamism is really what attracts me to my line of work.
Okay, sounds really interesting. Can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges being faced in the industry right now?
Sure. So from my perspective, what I would perceive to be the challenges would be that with elected officials, a lot of them, because cannabis is relatively new, or at least the regulated industry is, they just don't have a clear understanding of what's involved in the production and the manufacturing of both dried flower and the new cannabis product forms. So what we're seeing is that there's some policy proposals being put forth, and I would actually name the government of Quebec's recent draft regulation as one of them that is not cohesive to current industry realities or market realities as well. So I think that's the challenge I'm having, but that's where I come in and trying to bridge that gap. So it's a challenge I'm up to for sure.
Let's look at, you were recognized as top 30 under 30 people in cannabis to watch. Can you tell us a little bit about that award and what that means?
Sure. So it was a Post media article, specifically the Growth Op. And I would firstly say there aren't many of us under 30 in the cannabis sector. And to be honest, I don't really like to advertise my age because I think there's a little bit of an assumption that, the younger you are, the more inexperienced you are. But when it comes to cannabis, we're all new to cannabis. So I think for me, having cut my teeth in the industry, so to speak, I'm as experienced as many of my peers who were named in that article and given that similar honor.
And what is Cannabis Connect? You're a member. Tell me a little bit about this association or.
So Cannabis Connect, funnily enough, is or actually it used to be the branded name of our cannabis service offering, our cannabis practice at Global. Since we launched our tech practice, which was branded GPA Tech, we did a little bit of a rejig with cannabis as well. So what the practice encompasses is the services we offer to our clients. So our firm has offices from coast to coast, from Vancouver to Halifax, and each of those individuals in our offices work to service the cannabis industry in various ways, as I was outlining earlier, in terms of liaising with local officials, helping them with advocacy campaigns, and just helping them get their objectives and their message out to both the general public and elected officials and regulators. So that's what Cannabis Connect would be.
Makes sense. Can you talk about some of your clients and some of the new work that they're doing, or something that you'd like to highlight?
Sure.
What stands out?
Sure. So I work with a variety of different clients in the space.
Okay.
So I think when people think cannabis, government relations, there's a bit of a natural assumption that it's just cultivators or licensed producers, when in reality I work with certainly licensed producers, but also technology companies, those offering a B2B online wholesale marketplace. I work with those manufacturing vaporizer devices. I work with industry associations.
So it's quite broad. It's not.
It's quite broad. So but in terms of the work that they're doing, I think, look, we have a federal election coming up on October 21st, and the campaign has officially kicked off. A lot of these organizations are trying to engage their local candidates as they're seeking their vote to hopefully hold the seat come October, and really relay the economic benefits of the cannabis industry. You know, how many local jobs they've created, what they're going to bring to the region and the community. And I think that's a really exciting part of the work that they're doing, and of course I get to be lucky enough to assist with.
Got it. Now, let's switch gears here a little bit. As far as the U.S. is concerned, are you thinking that there's a big opportunity for exports possibly in the future, or is this going to be somewhat monopolized by big cannabis in the U.S.?
The export question is one I get asked a lot, and what I would say to that is it's down the line. So as per current Health Canada regulations, exports and imports are only permitted for research or scientific purposes and in very small amounts. There has been no precedent when we talk about imports for anything of commercial amounts, although we've certainly seen some organizations press release that they've shipped quantities to various countries in Europe and South America. In terms of the U.S., I think we're going to have to see a significant change at the federal level before we can talk about exports. And the news reports might indicate that change is coming, but I think it's still a long ways out.
Aside from exports, what other news should people be looking out for to indicate possible market change that might affect their investments?
I would say compliance and corporate governance are a big piece of that.
Okay.
Obviously, the industry is highly regulated, as it should be, but I think and it is certainly a high standard to uphold. We've seen some organizations that haven't necessarily done so, and it's certainly impacted their shareholders' investments and certainly the entire market, I would say. So I would say we need to look for companies that have a responsible commitment to corporate governance from the very top to the very bottom.
Okay. Well, that's just about all the questions I had. Is there anything you want to leave us with regarding cannabis?
Regarding cannabis, I would just leave you with, we spoke about the federal election. I would urge all constituents or citizens who are involved in the industry, if they are employed by the cannabis industry, they're a cannabis consumer, or they're a medical patient, most importantly, to engage their local candidates and try to make cannabis an election issue. Right now, none of the major party leaders are talking about it. Obviously, there's other issues for them to contend with, but we have a lot of ways to go in this industry, and I think making it an election issue will help us to do that.
Great. Well, thanks so much for your time, Alana.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it.